Okay, so before we move on, let's refactor our error handling in the app.js. Okay. So here this function is the old version, and it has different cases for different type of error. And because we changed the send response here, right, to return an array, right? So we also need to refactor this function a bit. So let's start with remove everything. Okay. Okay, so here we do a small console log to print error if it's happened. Right. Just this is for us, right, to see the error. And then here we return our util helpers.send response. Right. We pass in res. The status here, we will control whether we have the status code in the error. Then we will return that status code. Otherwise, we return 500.
So that
it checks.
So it checks error status code.
Yes.
If error status code is true,
is some number, is any number. Then return that number.
If it's validated
yes,
as true,
yes, yes.
it will return that code. If it's validated as false, it will send 500.
Send 500. Okay, success here is false, right? Because we are response an error. The data here is null. Right. And the list of error, we pass an array here with an object message error dot message. Here we go. So because we changed the function to take in a list of error, we modify this a bit. Okay, and so in the next step, we are going to implement the API to let user log in. So user will send an email and password, and we will we will validate the data and then let user log in or refuse them. Okay, so when we start with a new API, we start with the API file first. Right. So let's go to auth API. Let's go to user API and copy this, so that we just need to modify it. So copy the router post from the user API and paste this in the auth API.
We need to ask that the /* that section on the top there.
It's just a comment.
It's a comment.
Yes. Is there another way to write comment in paragraph instead of line by line with a double slash? Okay, so here the API is auth /login, right? Descriptions are login. Right. It's a public API. Right. And here we need to import the validators from the middleware. Right. So let's go ahead here. Do constant validators equal require from our middleware folders. Inside that, take the validator. Right. We need the body from the library express require express validator. Okay. And then here we don't need to validate the name, right? When we log in, we just send the email and password, remove the name, keep the email and password. And here we need to get a new function to handle this request, right? So let's take let's call auth controller dot login. So we're going to implement this login function right now, but just put it here first, okay? So when you save it, you will see an error because this function we haven't implemented, haven't been implemented.
Mọi người uống nước dừa nướng.
Thank you,
Nó
guys.
như thế nào đó, uống thử.
Cảm ơn em.
Yeah.
Does it make sense, guys? It's the same concept from this morning. Right? Okay, so for Tuấn, we have in the morning we implement a validators. That allow you to pass in an array of validations like this. Okay, so next step is we're going to implement this login function in the controller, auth controller. Right. So now let's go to auth controller. In auth controller, we're going to implement auth controller.login. So this name is too short, right? So let's call it login with email. Okay.
What do you mean it's too short?
Too short because it can be confused if later on you have login with Facebook or login with Google. Right? So let's call it login with email, and let's also change the auth API. In the auth API here, let's call it login with email. Okay, not just login. Auth API, let's change this to login with email. And in the auth controller, we create the function login with email. It's a synchronous function, which is one of the middleware of Express. So we have request response next, and this is a function, and we put a try catch concept there. And for any error, we pass this to our error handler that we have just refactored. So every time you create a function in controller, do this. Okay.
So with the next function there, next you go into the next step in the middleware and you passing the error through.
No, whenever you have something, this is going to the next middleware.
Okay.
But if you pass anything here, Express will stop the pipeline and jump to the error handler. With the error here. Okay, so first thing here, we need to get the email and password from the request.body. And then we need to find the user in the database with that email, right, to compare the password, whether it's correct or not. Right. John, how to get a user from the database? Can you read for me and I will type how to get the user with that email in the database? So we start with constant user, right? Equal what? Before that, you need a wait, right? Don't forget that. Right? So user dot no.
So to get the email from the database.
No, the email is from the request body.
So what is the question?
Now I want to find a user in the database with this email, and get his password to compare with this password.
Brackets.
No, find one bracket email. Correct. So here we need to import the user, right? How can I import it, Guan?
User equal to require the model.
From the model, yes. User, correct. Awesome. Okay. So if I cannot find this user, right? What should I do if I cannot find this user?
You log in it. If you cannot find this, throw the error.
Yes. So if not user, that means user is undefined. We return next with a new error, like invalid credentials.
So when you get that error, right? The next on that line on line 9, right?
Mm-hmm.
That next now is that now express stopping and going to the error handler.
Yes.
But now my thing is with this try method, why not just have the
Because it's returned right here.
no, but why
It's
not just have the true option in the try and then leave all the errors to the catch?
No, but if you cannot find a user, it's not an error. It's not an error if you cannot find the user with that email.
But so it's not a system error, that's a user error.
So if user pass in and
That's a catch was for logic.
yes. So try catch is for system error, exactly. Okay, so here at this step, we know that we have the user, right? We know that we have the user. Otherwise, it will throw them out. So here we need to compare the password, right? So the email has been found, but now we need to define is match is a variable, and we call the bcrypt compare the password that we get from the request with user.password, which is the hash output of the hash function. And here we also need to import bcrypt from bcrypt.js. And if it's not match, if the password is not match, we return another error, new error. We're saying wrong password. Who said backend is hard? It's just a logic, right? Flow from top to bottom, right? And you define the flow, that's all. Did you import it twice? Check it. But we are done. We are not done yet. We are not done yet.
But I didn't get email.
So then I must be you.
Wait. Let's finish it, and then I will help you to do that. Okay, so here at this point we know that the password also match. So email match, password match. We need now is generate the token, access token. User.generate token, and then we can return. With our util helper send response, and here we pass res. Right? The status here is 200. Success true. The data is user and access token, right? Errors here we don't have any. Message, maybe login successful. B creep, yes, correct. Thank you.
There is no message, no login successful.
So the status,
So
success true, data, error, message.
What is the difference between sending the token in the data with payload or with the
It's really effective from the front end side how front end can get the token.
okay.
And because the front end side, I follow Quas API document, he put the access token in the data. So
Is there a difference between the two, or is it just coding style?
it's just coding style. You can decide. You can. Okay, and that's it for the login. Surprise. Okay, now let's come to our Postman. Click on this button, right, to add a new request. Let's say login request, right, and click on this request. First thing first, change this to post, right, and then define the URL, which is API/auth/login, right? And in the header, let's define content type to application JSON, right? In the body, let's click raw, and then define email. And password. Okay. You can click on the register user to check the password that you have created earlier. And click send. Errors. API auth login. So we have an error here because in the API, right, we haven't changed this to login. We copy from the user, and we forgot to change the URL. So come back to Postman, send again, another error. I'm changing in user API, sorry. I need to change this in the auth API. Wake up Ming. Auth API, right? Not user API. One more. Okay, now it say wrong password. It say wrong password. But at least I get there. I get to the controller.
At least
Okay, so I remember the first account I create, I didn't put bcrypt there. So for the first account, it hasn't been hashed. So let me create a new account because it's my system, right? Add. So let's create a new account from.
Sorry, quickly, in the headers, where you went content type, what was the value again?
application/JSON. Okay, so I create a new account, copy the email to the login, and try to log in again. And here we go. So I have the data with the user data and the access token. That's it. Now it's debug time, right?
Where can I view all of the users that I've created? Where can I view all of the users that I've created?
Open Compass.
Nothing?
Open Compass. Compass.
Oh, right. Okay.
Click on user.
Users.
Who has error?
I think I don't have to open the Compass. So the headers, what did so you just open like this. When I did it, it's fine. So I think I will take some screenshot and you it out.
Outside they have the knife. Yes, they have the knife, the scissors, all that. Okay, like.
No, it's like website.
Now I need to question your power.
Well, mine is saying I got the wrong password, even though it's the right password.
What do you have a better?
It's just content type and the key. Then the value is application JSON. Yeah, application /JSON.
need to reprint the
Ủa, em xong chưa?
maybe you print it like without the entry.
Okay, so make a new account and
Make
try
a new
again.
account and test it.
Okay. Okay. Register.
Em có tiền gọi vậy không?
Oh, close.
Same problem.
Số kỳ gì đó. Ủa, sao kỳ gì đó?
So what is a coconut taste like? Burnt coconut.
It doesn't taste like burnt. It's actually really good.
Taste any different? Like sweeter?
They're like sweeter, not bitter, you know, like the raw coconut sometimes tastes good, like bitter, I guess. But this one's really sweet, very smooth. Very
You know what I like? It's like the coconut flour. It's like before it becomes a big coconut, it's small and it's like white, like that, and it's like a sponge, and it's sweet. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no.
What's it called? Yo. You guys really speak slower, so I can't hear. Yeah, that. No, not that. No, it's like. This man.
Em vô trên app em xem.
No, that one just dried coconut.
Oh, so when the coconut's dried.
Yeah. Coconut dry out. We cut it over and then slide on.
No.
It's like your carrot shredder.
Yeah.
Like the cheese shredder, but they use that. Tastes really nice.
Yeah, I like to eat it just like that.
And that is how coconut milk make from.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, the deflation.
Yeah.
I went on a day tour in Mekong and took us to a coconut factory. Coconut manufacturing.
Ủa số cái này nó rõ không?
Maybe like
Có còn nó chỉ có
coconut plantation.
In Mekong.
Yeah.
You're thinking of cotton.
Yeah.
Cotton plantations, not coconut plantations. Like.
I'm trying to be racist.
You just.
Right. How do you set up the or some old checkers?
Ê, em thấy gì không?
Ủa, vậy là bỏ hết tay
No, you do register.
Hoặc là em vô có xem thấy có chữ navigation đây. Chỉ thấy
Then Oh, in header.
controller, some user.
I had to do it. I can't remember now.
Em setup cái URL này setup app là chỗ hostname but the host or the code for register is URL dash API
Yeah. API auth login.
Cái bản create new collection đó, nó có một cái gọi là variables. Ông có một mới á. Variable này của không cho ai nào.
No, just headers. Headers mean to add a new header, like content type, application, JSON. Application, JSON. So body, you go to raw and then you put in whatever payload you're going to send. Yeah, email password. You get the same thing here. The browsing undefined Man, if you see undefined when it's supposed to be a value, there's something wrong. Unless you want it to be undefined. You seen the algorithms, the equations they got going?
Yeah, what's that?
Oh.
I know, right? So we check this, and that's also checking. Yeah. So we check this. This good, what's it called? It's an email, and the values provided for the
more weights. Because when I smoke, keeps my weight up. Yeah, I'll start exercising soon. I don't have the right clothes. I don't have the correct shoes. So I must go gym in my condo.
Have you ever been in the gym?
Huh?
Have you ever been in the gym?
Show me your hand. Can you log in? Show me your hand. Minh? Can you log in, Minh?
Yes, but not yet. I cannot connect to the internet somehow.
Oh, the internet?
Yeah.
But we don't need the internet.
You don't need it. It's a local post. You don't need it.
Okay, so that is the login. You can see for that feature, we only need one function in the API, auth API, to define the post and link it to the login with email, and then inside the controller we create the one function. That's it. Right. So for one feature in the backend side, only two places to change, right? The API and the controller. Done. Okay, next we're going to implement the block API. The block API. So we will start from get a list of blocks with pagination, which is public. Yes.
Can you update the code on GitHub?
Yeah, yeah. Git add dot git commit dash. Okay, so let's copy the routes here. Let's copy the routes here to the blocks, and make sure we modified it correctly. Give me 1 second, please. Here we go. Okay, so this is a GET request. So now we are in the block API. Okay, a GET request to API slash blocks. API slash blocks. The description is get blocks with pagination. The access is public, and the way we pass the pagination is page equal something. It's just an example, and limit equal 10. So limit is how many blocks per page we want to show. Right. Okay, here the route need to be changed to get. Right, to get. This one we keep it the same. Right? We don't change this because we are in the block API already. Right. Do we need validation? No, because we are not sending any data to the server. We don't need this. Okay, user controller change to block controller. And let's call this function get blocks.
You will get an error when you say that, right?
Yes, because we haven't created this function. Okay, so now come to block controller. Block controller. Let's create the function get blocks. Block controller dot get blocks. This is a synchronous function with request, res, next. And if you save it, the error is gone. And inside here, what is the next step here? Anyone remember?
Oh,
Check-it, yes. Check-it. And what do we do with the arrow? Next arrow, right? Okay, so now it's time to dive into the logic of getting blocks with pagination. The first thing we need to get the query param, which is page and limit, and we convert them into integer. This is quite important because later on we do some mathematical operation on this, and we get the value from request.query dot page. But the query param is optional, meaning that people will just send the get blocks without any params. Right? So we need to cover that case with a default value is 1. So we do the syntax OR here. So get me the query param, otherwise just take the value 1. So we do the same with limit, pass int query dot limit or 10. We just get the value from the query. And so in order to calculate the number of pages, the total number of pages, we need to get the total number of blocks, right? Total blocks. And to get that, we need the block model. So let's import the block model here. Constant block equal require models / block. Right. And here we do block dot count documents to get the total number of blocks. Then we calculate the total number of pages. Let's call it total pages. So the total number of pages is the round number of the total blocks divided by limit. So if you want to show like 10 blocks per page and you have a total number of blocks, the total number of pages is total blocks divided by limit.
I was trying to look at that map quickly. So total pages, total blocks divided by the limit. Limit is...
Limit could be anything. Limit is the number of blocks per page.
Yeah,
okay. Okay, and in Mongoose, if you want to get like 10 blocks from the page 2, right? That means you skip the 10 blocks from the page 1, right? In order to get the 10 blocks of page 2, that means you skip the first 10 blocks in page 1, right? So and that is called offset. And the value of offset here is limit times page minus 1. This is the number of blocks we need to skip to start to get data. And thanks God, that's it for the math. Now we go to the database. Await block dot find. So we find the blocks and we sort it. We sort it based on the time is created at is -1 to sort it in descending way. So The newest block will be the top. So we skip a offset number of blocks, and we get the limit number of blocks. Wait. I'm done here. Okay.
You were done with.
Give me 1 second. Okay, here you go. So we find the block, right, that is sorted by created at. We skipped offset number of blocks, and we get the limit number of blocks.
What is offset number?
What is offset number?
Yeah.
So let's say we have 10 blocks in total. 10 blocks. We want to go to page number 3. Right. And the limit number, which is the number of blocks we want to show on each page, is 3. On each page, we show 3 blocks. And we want to jump to the page 3. Right. Then, if we divide the pages, here we have 1, 2, 3 blocks. 1, 2, 3 blocks. 1, 2, 3 blocks. And in the last page, we have 1 block only, because we have in total 10 blocks. Right? Okay, so first, the total page. The total page is 4. Right? And it's calculated by 10 divided by 3, which is 3.3. And mask 0 is bring 3.3 to 4. 0. So you get the total page. Okay, so now I want to get the page 3 here. 1, 2, 3. In the database, all of the blocks here is documented in the collection. So we need to, if we want to get those 3 blocks, we need to skip the first 6. Right. The first 6. So 6 is the offset. It's the number of blocks we need to skip in order to get those blocks. And 6 is calculated by limit times page minus 1. Right? Limit 3 times page 3 minus 1 to the 6.
What is the created at minus 1 and
Created at minus 1 is sort the blocks based on created at in descending order.
It's good offset. Why do you skip the offset? Why do you skip the offset?
I need to skip the first 6 in order to get page.
All right, offset. Okay.
You good? Cool. Okay, we are very close. Now, here, we just need to return calling our send response, and we pass the rest in. We pass status here 200. Success is true. The data is the list of blocks that we get from the server. Do we have any error? No. Message. Okay. I don't want to. It depends on you, right? You can put anything here, but.
So the created app is a plugin for keeping the app
when we create a new block.
So it's like on Reddit, or on a platform. Sometimes they render based on popularity, render based on the popularity and how the latest comment, latest edit, and latest review. So are we gonna add a function in the plugin to have like
to sort the articles based on any orders. Right? Yeah, that could be a function here after you get the block, or before you get the block to sort it, or you always sort it in that order. And they have a mathematical formula to calculate the weight of the article, and then they sort the article based on that weight.
sorry, like in the movie apps.
Mhm.
So instead of we're gonna use logic in the front end, we're just gonna set logic in the back end and then give it a route. And whenever we click the function from the front end to stop, they just send the whole window without any sorting algorithm in the front end.
Yes. Yes. Actually, the backend should handle that logic, and the front end should only show that. Okay, remember when we do GitHub issue, we need the total number of pages to put into our pagination component, right? So here we did calculated it. So let's put it here with the blocks in an object, right? Wrap blocks and total pages. Save it, and that's it. So here in Compass, I have how many blocks I have? So I have 30 blocks, right? 30 blocks. So now let's come to Postman. Create a new request. Get blocks with pagination. And click on this one. We need to get the URL is /API/blocks. Right. And we want to have page 3 with limit, let's say 7. Right. 7. How many total pages I will have? The total?
You'll have 5 pages.
5 pages, right. So we expect to see total pages equal 5 and a list of 7 blocks. Right. Click send. Wow, that's worked for the first time. It's my lucky day. So here we have a bunch of blocks, right? And at the end we have total page 5. So let's change the limit here to 1. Limit 1, we expect to see total page 30, and we expect to see a list of 1 blocks. So that's work. Wow. Any error? Any error?
Yes.
Okay, guys, you can update the code. I will keep pushing to this GitHub. You can find the link on Discord. Just open it and if you want to check the error.
What game did you play today with your kids? What game did you play with your kids today? Oh, I don't know. No, they're doing it's a new class and I'm doing movers test again. So, no, not the mover, the first one, but the movers, flyers, and doing it. Very low level kids, so I'll just give it. I looked at a video game last night. They all sit in a circle and they write a number on their desk. And then, after the teacher starts, there's one student in the middle. Shouts out a number. The student in the middle has to touch the desk with that number in 5 seconds or 3 seconds, depending on your clock. And the number that they touch, that student has to swap if they get it in the time. Yeah, I'll try to play it tonight. I didn't play it last because I had the kindergarten and it's last night.
for your hand. Anyone? Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to, so we can get list of blocks. So now let's implement a get single block. Right. So get single block is another route here to get the API /block :id, right? To get a single block. Right. Let's write some description. Get a single block, right? It's public, right? Do we need validation? Do we need any validation for this?
Yes.
And
No.
what is that?
No. You don't.
Actually, we need, yes. And we need to validate whether we have a ID param in the URL. And more than that, whether that ID is a MongoDB ID. Right. Otherwise, user can just send any ID, whatever, to us. Right. So here the validation is whether we have the ID and whether it's a MongoDB ID. Right. So we're going to add one more function for that to check whether an ID is a MongoDB in validators. So let's go to validators. And we're going to create a new validator. Check object ID. So object ID is the name of the MongoDB ID. So here we want to control whether a param ID is a MongoDB ID. Right? So the input is a param ID. And the function here, inside the function, we check if not mongoose dot types dot object ID. So mongoose dot type dot object ID dot is valid, and wrap the param ID here. So this is the way to check whether any string is a MongoDB object ID. So if this is wrong, we throw a new error. Invalid object ID. Otherwise, we return true. So a new validators to check the object ID. So this one is called custom validation. So a validation that you design by your need, when you need. Okay, Tiên. Okay, now after that, we come to the block API here. Block API. We're going to add that validator as a middleware, right? As a middleware before this, right? So here we define validators dot validate. And inside the array of validation, we get param ID. And this param is come from the express generator. So you can auto import it. Oh no. Param. Where's the auto import? Okay. So params come from express validator. So param ID dot exist dot is string, and then dot custom, and we pass our custom validation here, and our custom validation is check object ID. So param from express validator, and we chain a bunch of validation here.
Param is not.
Also, this
Yeah, that's yeah. I think
Okay, the last one here, we were not going to use the get blocks, right? We're going to create a new function, get single block.
Sorry, it's express validator, right?
Express validator, yes. Okay, get single block, right? Is a new function to implement, right? Okay, so now we go to block controller, and we add a new function, block controller dot get single block. This is a synchronous function with request, rest, next, and then followed by try catch. And for the error, we pass to next. If you save it, then no error anymore. If you save it. You have to import param. Constant param equal require express validator. Okay, so to get a single block with the ID from the param request param, we do constant block equal await block dot find one, or find by an ID, right? Because we have the ID, and the ID is inside the request dot params dot ID. And thus we'll go to MongoDB and get the block for us. And if we cannot find any block, we return next a new error, block not found. So we find the block in the database. If we cannot find it, we return error. Otherwise, we return util helpers dot send response, right? We pass the rest. Status here is 200, success true, data is our block, no error, and no message at all. And that's it for get single block.
And we can do that, check that now on Postman, right?
Check the now. Postman. Yeah, yes. Okay, then we can go to Postman, create a new request, get single block. And so let's copy one ID of in the list of blocks before. Right. Go to the get single block. Here we do URL /API /blocks/ and pass the ID in. So this ID I get it from the previous step, get blocks with pagination. And here I pass the ID here and click send, and not found. Okay. So not found here means the server doesn't recognize this URL. Right. So we need to check from the block API.
It doesn't let me select the ID and office. We have to change the route.
Change the route.
The route in the block API.
No, it's in the block API. Right. Okay. Here. We need to change this, right? We need to add the ID here. Otherwise, it's like the same with the previous step. So we need to add the ID in the route of block API. Right? Add ID here. And click send. Here we go.
Compass doesn't let me copy the block ID.
Don't copy from Compass. Copy from the previous Postman step here. Okay, so one thing to fix here, guys, put the colon ID in the router, in the block API, very important. ID in router API.
This dot validator is I made a mistake somewhere. This dot validator.
Any error?
I have error and like cannot set block for initialization.
Ráng gửi cho em cái function đấy. Okay, a lot of missing S and a lot of not capitalized model B. Okay, so we are moving to create, update, and delete block. They have the same flow, right? So That means like one big component more, and then we're done today. Right? So keep it up. So to create a new block, you need to require user to log in. And user need to log in to create a new block. Right? So how can we control whether user is logged in or not? Access token, right? So the front end need to send the access token to the server, right? And the access token, and then in the server side, we will have a middleware to check that access token, whether it's correct access token, right? And then we pass the data through the controller. Okay, so now let's go to middleware folder and yes. Okay, so in middleware here, let's create authentication.js. Okay, so inside the authentication here, the idea is now we're going to validate the token, access token that's generated from the JSON Web Token. We need to define or import the JSON Web Token. We also need our key, JWT secret token, that we get from the .env file. And let's define an auth middleware, which is an empty object, and then we export that object out. Okay, and then auth middleware.login require is our middleware we want to add into the pipeline. Login required is equal a function with request response next, and inside here we do try catch. Pass the error to next. Yeah, you can write it as arrow function. Yes, no problem. No.
So we don't actually have to write it. We do have to write it.
If you need to access to the database, then you can push the asynchronous here. So if you need to use a wait, then you need asynchronous. No. Okay, one feedback from Khoa here in the error handler. Let's print out the error to see the full error. App.js, the error handler function, just console log the error. So error.message just show you the title of the error, but print the whole error show you also the where it's wrong and the file path. Okay, so first we need to get the token string. This is from the headers dot authentication authorization. the token string is come from headers.authorization. And if we cannot get the token string, we return a new error, which is token not found.
Or if token's not found, then it's an invalid user. So
Yeah. Or the front end forgot add the token to the headers. Okay, so here we have the token string. We need to get the core value of the token by removing the bearer, the bearer string. There are one space here. There is one space there. Okay, so after that we can call JWT verify. JWT verify, and we pass in the token that we get here, and we pass in our secret key to verify, and then we have a callback function so it will verify the token based on the secret key and give us the error and payload that we can handle here in this callback function. So first handle the error. If any error happens, and here we have a special case when the error name is token expired error. So in this case, we return a error, new error, that's saying token expired. Or for everything else, for every other error which say token is invalid. Okay, so after handling all of the error, we do request.user_id equal payload.id. Okay, let me put the console log here to show you what is the payload looks like. How is the payload look like, and what is this ID come from? Okay, and here outside the function here, let's call next to move on to the next middleware. This is quite important. Right? Don't forget this. Okay, I will send this code to Discord.
I kept up to it.
Okay, how about you? I explain line by line and then copy the code, send to Discord. You prefer to type it by yourself, or you prefer to copy and paste?
I prefer typing by myself. practice and the
Yes.
And
Okay.
focus more on
So we do both, right? I will type slow and then copy to the Discord for you to double check. Okay, so we have the middleware for check the login required. Right. So now let's go to the blog API. And now let's say we don't allow user to get the list of blocks so easy. All right, we want to validate only login user can see the list of blocks. So here you need to, in order to do that, you need to import the middleware here, and we do constant authentication from middleware / authentication. Right? We import the authentication here. Oops, I call it auth middleware, right? Let me check. Authentication auth middleware without S, right? You are very sensitive with S now. So we import auth middleware from our authentication, and then to add the middleware, we go to the get list of blocks here. We do auth middleware dot login require. That's it. So we are in blog API, import auth middleware from the authentication middleware, and we add that middleware in the route to get the list of blocks.
Is that the reason why we need the next in the all?
Yeah, so that is will move to the controller. Otherwise, it will stuck here.
Root.get requires a callback. Governance
Okay. So let's test this. Get block with pagination, send it again, and we see token not found here. Oh, we have an error. Let's fix this. No, right? Token not found in the middleware. Oh, it just print the error out, right? Yeah, because before I put that's why that's why I only print the message. It looks so intimidating. So the error is cannot find the token string, right? Because we haven't added that too. Okay, so now how can we add that? So remember when we log in, right? Let's run the login again. Let's run the login again, and then copy the access token here. So this is the access token we need to verify our user. And now let's go to the get blocks with pagination. In the headers, let's add authorization here in the header. Authorization in the header. For the value, we do bearer space, and we pass the access token we copy from the login. Okay, again, login again, right? If you have the register, you can also register again and get the access token. So copy that access token, goes to get blocks with pagination in the headers at authorization. For the value, you type bearer. Remember space here. Remember to put one space, and then pass the access token there.
Why do we have to move the bearer there?
It's like a protocol.
Probably to indicate where the starts.
Mm.
Because maybe sometimes there's going to be a valid word in the token space, something like that.
Okay, now click send. So token is invalid.
What's the
So token is invalid. Invalid.
Should we just make a
Sorry.
should we just make a function for like fact token so we can test easier?
We have a function to in the user to generate token. So whenever we log in, we generate a token already. So it say the token is invalid.
Should have been instead the JWT secret token is the secret key.
We get it from the .env. Oh. Typo. You saved me. Okay, so this is the not JWT secret token, is JWT secret key. Sorry guys. Sorry. I will edit on the code on the Discord. Okay, send again, and voila. We pass, right? Now we see the list of blocks. Okay, so remember I put the console log payload here, right? So payload is the information that's stored in the token. And here you can see we have, so the IAT and expire here is the data generated by JWT. And this ID is our user ID that we put in the token. Yes. So first question for any other guys, where did we set this value? And another question, if I want to add the email of the user in this token, how can I do it? Right. Think about that. Right? I will fix it.
Can you just quickly show me the postman how to put the error?
How to put the token?
Yeah, the postman.
Okay.
And, get blocks, right?
Get blocks.
Yeah.
Click on headers.
Authorization.
Authorization. Bearer.
I know. Blog API. Huh? Oh, no.
Sorry, sister. Probably because cái ID đó mình xét là ngay chỗ payload ngay trong authentication blockchain request dot user ID equal payload dot
mà mình in nó ra trước mà. Hay lúc đấy nào ở đâu ra?
Yeah, it was very good work.
A little slow.
Just yeah, you'll. I'll just check
Record.
the repo also.
So tomorrow we're gonna do? What's the plan for tomorrow?
Your project for
Just finish this.
yeah, but we don't have a project for the weekend.
No.
Sweet, okay. I'm gonna start my final project.
That's my purpose.
Actually, maybe tomorrow, because I haven't been able to deploy any project with the backend,
Mhm.
so I don't have to do it with the Heroku.
So tomorrow we will deploy.
Yeah, maybe
We'll try to deploy.
yeah, because as soon as we start the backend, I haven't deployed any website.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Do you need this? You need to bleach your nipples. Is that true? You need this, huh? Your nipples a little bit dark. I don't know why I was advertising that to me. Yeah, I'm the scientist you can fucking get. I know. My nipples are pink as fuck.
Those things are scary, man. They just scare you and they just show anything you do. It doesn't
I'm
matter.
really talking about brown nipples.
I don't know. Would be
I'm gonna troll see if the moderator actually.
I know which one I will try and then get so what do you wanna get?
Huh?
I know you're talking about the same thing, but I try which one and say like whatever you wanna buy. And then you say it, 5 minutes already.
You see the ad? Yes, no, it's easy.
So it's handy sometimes. It's handy at the same time.
What?
It's handy at the same time.
Yeah, but I don't know, like, once you think about it, you don't have privacy anymore.
Okay, I have a meeting now, so let's code it. Your homework is try implement create new block. Create new block require login. Try to practice creating a new block. Start from define the routes with the post request to API blocks, and create a function in controller to save a block in the database.
Create a new block and a controller to save the block.
To save that. So just to practice the thing we done today. Like,
How about we do this function for our final project? Have to implement this project.
we are not done yet. We are not done yet.
Easy.
Don't be easy. Finish this first. Finish this first. You better get error here where I can help you better than your final project. We still have time.
You can help us on the final project.
For sure, yeah, but I can help you faster with this project.
Oh, yeah.